Somebody check that the stream is running properly just on their phone, now that I've brought it up.
If you're tuning into the stream, we are just about to start. We have not started yet, though. We're just setting some stuff up, so like skip ahead a little bit.
Oh, because it's on the other monitor. Yeah, no shit. Let me bring that back down.
This is what it looks like right now.
Okay, it's just a black screen.
What do you see? Oh, is OBS not fucking? Yeah. Let's change that to.
Yeah, OBS is messed up.
That. Oh no, that's. It'll stream fine. It's just that view is particularly.
Can I see?
So it should be displaying that.
Okay, well it's time to start. So if the stream doesn't work,
yeah. Okay, so it does. It is set up as preview and programmed. I hate that.
Yeah, why are we on studio mode?
There we go. Much better.
Okay,
you should be able to see it on.
Take me into the PowerPoint and we'll get going.
It works now.
Cool, we're on.
Awesome. Okay, everyone, we're about to start. So my name is Finn, and today I'm going to be doing a presentation on just a bunch of things you should probably already know about, but if you don't, well, this is your chance to. Yes.
Can we address the elephant in the room? What the hell is that?
This is a YouTube thumbnail that has like a bunch of different things on it, and I thought it looked funny, so yeah, I just put that there. But yeah, so I'll try and not spend too long on each of the different things I'm going to show. There'll be a few browser extensions, a few pieces of software, a few apps that I just think are pretty good. I have used all of these tools, so I do recommend them, and I think they are most of the time better than all of the other alternatives. So yeah, let's get into it. Put your hand up if you use an ad blocker of some kind. So you don't use an ad blocker? No? You just watch the YouTube ads? So if you don't use an ad blocker, I highly recommend it. It will save a lot of time. It will save, like if you go onto a website to look at a recipe, it's just like absolutely crazy. uBlock Origin is the one I recommend because it is just updated continuously by the community all of the time. And if you don't want to like go crazy with all of the features like the element zapper and the eyedropper tool, which you can use to just randomly remove HTML elements, you can also go for uBlock Origin Lite. Yeah, if you're not using an ad blocker, just please, it's a really useful browser extension to have and literally takes 2 seconds to install. If you want to save some time though, I do also recommend Sponsor Block, because if you're looking at coding tutorials on YouTube or just watching YouTube and wasting time in general, they always sponsor things like NordVPN or Raid Shadow Legends. You can use this extension, which will literally just skip the sponsored segments inside of a YouTube video. Literally any YouTube video that has more than like 10,000 views will have the sponsors already marked through people that support this extension by the community. And if you don't want to watch YouTube at all, which is what I recommend because it's a bit of a waste of time, then you can use this extension, which literally just hides recommended videos from you on the sidebar. And it's actually surprising the amount of just time that you can waste by going on the home page and just looking at videos that don't really help. I recommend if you want to learn something in depth, you go look at a technical textbook of some kind. You'll just learn like 10 times more in the same amount of time that you would get from just watching a silly YouTube video. I also recommend that you use a password manager if you don't already use one. Put your hand up if you use a password manager. Okay, I still see a lot of people without their hands up. There's literally an inbuilt one for anyone on an iOS device, and I guess Android devices as well would also have inbuilt password managers. You might already be using it and not even know, but yeah, just please use a password manager. It will save you a lot of headaches. Getting into the AI side of things though, if you're paying for ChatGPT, I wouldn't really recommend doing that unless you're like paying for the API to do coding inside like VS Code or something. If you're just doing like the regular chat, sending messages and waiting for a message to come back kind of thing, I recommend Google AI Studio. It allows you to access the Gemini models without getting rate limited until you get to like 100 messages per day. So you can get their premium models for free basically without having to pay for their plan. It's under this website, not the usual Gemini website. And it's good because you can actually see how many tokens you're using and you get access to change the like security settings and the censoring and blah, blah, blah. So it's just the one I personally recommend. If you don't want to go to university at all, you can also just go on GitHub and get a free degree by accessing just all of these resources here. I found this one to actually be quite useful, the missing semester of your computer science education. It goes over things like using the terminal and just a lot of things that you kind of need to know, but you don't really have a specific course for at university. It's literally just a GitHub repo you can go and search up. I do recommend, by the way, if you want to look into any of these things, you just look them up while I'm going through these because I'm not going to be mentioning them again afterwards. As for editing your code, I recommend as a code editor Visual Studio Code. It depends on what you're doing, of course, but as long as you're not just using like Notepad++ or something like just Notepad in general on Windows, then yeah, as long as you've got a text editor that's actually an IDE, integrated development environment, that's just a good thing. Although if you want to move beyond that, I recommend looking into something like NeoVim. This is just a random screenshot I found of someone's configuration, but it's a lot more customizable and it's what the real power users use. It's just It's a lot faster in your coding because you don't use your mouse to click random GUI buttons around the screen. By using the keyboard, you can more quickly and effectively navigate through the text. And in order to use that, you are going to need to have some kind of terminal. There's two main terminals that I've seen a lot of people use. As long as you don't, I mean, you can just use the default terminal built into your operating system. But I do recommend getting something like WesTerm or Ghosty. They just have a bit more customization. Like for example, WesTerm, the config is in Lua, which is the same coding language that is used for the config of NeoVim. So if you get used to Lua, then you've basically just mastered the configs for both of these two things, which I think is nice. If you're on Windows, Auto Hotkey is something that I really recommend if you want to just do any sort of automated task on your computer quickly and effectively. You can set hotkeys to do literally anything. It's almost a coding language in and of itself. If we have a look right here, so by writing just that line right there, by typing BTW on your keyboard, it will just replace that with by the way. But you can go crazy by adding actual coding logic. And one thing that I did, which I think was quite funny, was make it so when I wake up in the morning at a specific time of day, it'll just like automatically open Discord and navigate my mouse to clicking on this like specific Discord channel. And then it'll give me like 10 minutes to look at Discord, then close Discord and open up something else. And so I just had this like whole routine built into it for whatever silly reason. I don't remember why, but there's a lot of things you can do with this to speed up your workflow. Yes? Well, what do you mean by that?
Have you joined the YouTube Computer Science Discord?
No.
We have a Screams to the Void channel.
Oh yeah?
If you look it up.
Yeah, so you could just make a simple button you press on your keyboard and it just like types that out 1,000 times, or copy and paste it. You can alter things in your clipboard. It's really useful if you have not looked into this. On Mac, there is no good alternative apart from Carabiner Elements, which isn't that good. It's literally nothing of what I just said, but it is what it is. For memorizing things as part of your study, I highly recommend Anki. It's just a flashcard software. Anyone who's used it probably uses it like every day, I hope. It is the kind of thing that you do need to do every day, otherwise you're not going to remember things. But you can memorize basically anything in here. There's a lot of add-ons you can get for custom leaderboards. I've memorized every single capital of every single country and every single flag using it in just like 3 months, so it's pretty effective, I think. If you're messing with databases of any kind, you can just do it through the terminal, which I mean is usually a better way of doing things, but you can also get this program called dbeaver, which allows you to access a database but view it in it's just a really good way of working with databases, basically. You can see things in a table like this. You can have tabs for different select statements and whatever you're doing up there, and you even have like, I forget what it's called, but you can have the graph view as a way of visualizing things. dbeaver. You can we see it in there? No, just D, then like the beaver animal. Yeah.
Does that only work for SQL databases or?
I think so, yes. If you ever need to edit a video of some kind for a presentation or just editing a video in general, as long as it's not just like a simple trimming the ends, I recommend DaVinci Resolve. The industry standard for editing videos is Premiere Pro, but like it just crashes all the time. You lose your progress and it's annoying, and it's just annoying to use. Plus, DaVinci Resolve is free, or at least has a free plan that has 99% of features you would ever need, so you don't have to like find a dodgy website to pirate Premiere Pro. It's very good. If you're making like a game or a GUI application and don't want to have to like use an actual GUI framework or something, I recommend Godot. Most people use Unity, which is okay, but if you ever plan on having your game become actually successful and making money off of it, then Unity will impose fees upon you, which means you get less money. Godot does not have those fees because it's fully open source, and so I recommend it. Please shout out if there's a question, by the way, because I was not paying attention to people putting their hands up. The awesome GitHub repo literally has every single topic you could basically ever think of and links to other repositories about that specific topic. And I think it's just an awesome place if you want to, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, you want to look into a specific coding language, for example, and you just want to dive deep into just finding more stuff out about that coding language. You can just go to it on this list, click on the link, and then it'll take you to another GitHub repo, which just has everything you could ever possibly want to know about that specific coding language. But it's not just for coding language. It could be literally anything. The awesome GitHub repository it's interesting if you don't know about it. I think everyone should, to some degree, be backing up their computers of some kind, because if you've ever deleted a file and then been like, oh, I wish I didn't delete that file, and then empty the recycle bin, well, that could have been solved by simply using something like Backblaze, which automatically uploads all your files on your computer to the cloud. There is specific software, yes?
Is this a fake sponsorship or something?
No. But there is software that allows you to actually recover files that have been permanently deleted on your system. But depending on how long ago you deleted those files or lost them, it's usually quite unlikely you'll be able to recover them. I don't actually use Backblaze though. I actually use a different method, which I'll get to in a moment, of sort of trying to make it so you never lose a file that you really want, or a bunch of files. Miro is basically a digital multiplayer whiteboard, and it's really useful if you're doing just like mind maps or a bunch of stuff that they always get you to do in university that like doesn't really do anything, but it's really good. It's literally like how Google Docs is better than Microsoft Word, but for whiteboards. Also, if you ever want to access the dark web, I recommend the Tor web browser. It does sort of act as like, I mean, it's not a VPN, but it does kind of act as like a free VPN if you want to access a website that is restricted in your country for whatever reason. So I usually just use it for that purpose. But yeah, I won't get into like how these specific tools work, but if you've never heard of these things, I highly recommend you do start looking into them, because these are just things you should know about if you don't already. OBS Studio is the only real option when it comes to recording your screen or doing a live stream of some kind. Recording your screen is obviously very important, but using like Xbox Game Bar is, don't do that. Or the built-in Mac screen recorder is, I mean, it's okay, but you get a lot more granular control by using these tools, and it doesn't take that much brain power to just figure out what like video bitrate is and how adjusting that number affects the quality of the video. You sort of learn more of like what a video is actually made of by using these slightly more technical tools. A lot of you probably use the default file explorer because Windows enforces it upon you, and there's no way around that. But you can try to mitigate how much you use the file explorer, because a lot of the time it doesn't have all of the features you need, or it's just really, really slow at moving files or copying them for whatever reason. There are alternatives to the regular file explorer. I haven't actually found one that is super amazing. I did use this one called Directory Opus here for a while, which I think is actually made by someone in Australia. But yeah, it just allows you to customize absolutely everything. You can have like vertical tabs, and it somehow just like copies and moves files like 10 times faster. I don't know how. But it's annoying because you always come into this problem of like the original file explorer popping back up somehow, and you're not really able to change that. So there's no proper solution to the problem of just a bad file explorer. But if you do ever have trouble finding files on your computer, I do recommend this program. I mean, there's a bunch of others that do the exact same thing, but it just instantly allows you to search every single file on your computer instantly. So by just simply typing the name in there, and I think you can use like regex expressions or something, you can just find a file without having to wait for the super slow load times, because it does some just simple basic indexing that File Explorer does not do for whatever reason. I don't actually store files on my computer. I just store everything in Google Drive. And so because of that, I feel like I don't really need to do the Backblaze backup method, because, I mean, if you drop your computer or laptop in a river, okay, you've lost some files. But if they're on Google Drive, then, well, you haven't really lost anything apart from a probably very expensive laptop. So that's what I do. I mean, you can get the cheap plans for not that much, and as long as you're connected to the internet, you have access to your files. You can also make it so when you're not connected to the internet, you still have access to your files, but they just won't sync until you reconnect. Raycast is a program that is sort of like Spotlight on Mac OS, but just a lot better. There's a lot of things you can do with it. I don't really know how to summarize what it exactly does. Does anyone here know about or use Raycast? No one? One person uses Raycast here. Okay. Yeah, that's true. They are working on a Windows port of this right now. But yeah, I just use it to set up hotkeys for specific applications, which you can do with Auto Hotkey, but Auto Hotkey is not available on Mac. So yeah. If you are storing your files on your computer though, I do recommend that you use this program if you're ever running out of space. It gives you this lovely visual representation of all the files on your computer and sort of where like the really big files are, so you can just find them and delete them immediately instead of spending like 50 hours going and deleting like 1 megabyte file photos or something. This one might anger some people, and I mean, I think Windows is the best operating system if you're doing gaming or using specific applications that are only available on it. However, if you're a university student, I highly recommend Mac OS because the laptops have really good battery life. You gotta hear me out on this one. And I'm not sure what else to say apart from the battery life, but it is just more polished in general. Windows does feel like it's just paint on top of paint. You go into like the control panel and you're looking at a UI from 10 years ago and it's like, what's happening right now? Or the registry editor and it's like, oh, that's so ugly. That doesn't happen with Mac OS. There are some specific applications that I think are good for Mac users. One of them is specifically Hazel. If you cannot be bothered coding up a simple solution to like empty your files or from the rubbish bin or move them around, Hazel allows you to just set up sort of cool automated actions. This is sort of blocking it, but one thing you could do is make it so when a file enters your downloads folder, it automatically gets a specific tag, gets moved to a different folder, potentially duplicated, and then deleted. I have it set up so any file in my downloads folder that has been there for more than 7 days is just moved to the trash. So that way I don't have like 10,000 files of just like re-downloaded PowerPoints building up over time. This keeps your screen awake because if you're using a Mac, your screen will just turn off, which is really annoying. So this just makes the Mac life a little bit more bearable. And this program automatically quits out of applications that you have not uploaded in a while, which is very nice because you see people with their dock and it's just like full of stuff because for whatever silly reason, when you click the red X icon on an application in Mac, it doesn't actually close out of the application. It like stays running in the background. No one knows why, but this just automatically cleans all of that up for you. So we're just like trying to make Mac a bit more usable. If for whatever reason you have low self-control or like brain rot, TikTok, YouTube brain, you can use this. This won't help if you're on a phone, but if for whatever reason you watch YouTube on your laptop or something, you can just blacklist it and you'll be unable to access the website. The cool thing about this program is if you uninstall it and remove it from your machine, the block will still be in effect for the remainder of the duration that you set it for. There is literally no way to get around it. I mean, there is, but you sort of like, I feel like if you got around the block, then you'd probably have learned a few tricks and it was worth your time. So if you don't want to use Mac, out of all the Linux distributions, I have heard that Omarchi is one of the better ones. I have not personally used Omarchi, but I've heard good things about it. The nice window managers, highly recommend you look into it if you're using Linux. And in terms of applications on your phone, I do have a few just rapid fire recommendations I want to go through right here. Upbank is very nice. It allows you to make it so, one feature I really like is I have it so when I get paid, all the money that I get automatically gets split into different savers. So I'll have like 20% of my income go towards like groceries or something. Then like specifically $15 can go to this other thing. And it's almost like sorting your money into different folders automatically, which I think is nice. Macro Factor and Macro Factor workouts are good if you're going to the gym on a bulk or something. I've tried a bunch of different workout apps and these seem to be the best. I think that's GoodNotes. Or anyway, that note-taking app right there with the icon, I'm sure all of you know about it, is super good if you have like an iPad and are doing maths. It's just good to do things on an iPad instead of pencil and paper because that's expensive. I mean, iPads are also expensive, but maybe it's better for the environment using less paper. I forget what this app is called, but let me just quickly see on my phone. It's really good for audio. It's called Book Player. It has such a generic name, that's why I forgot it. And if you listen to audiobooks like while you're on the bus, trying to be a little bit more productive than just scrolling on TikTok or whatever, I found this to be the best audiobook player. The Preview app on iOS devices is good if you're scanning documents. This is on all of your phones now as of the latest iOS update. And if you ever have like a receipt or an A4 piece of paper you need to scan, you can just point your phone at it and it will like perfectly crop the image nicely to that piece of paper and save it. The Transit app is better in some ways than the regular TransLink app. I use it for public transport, highly recommend. Google Drive app is good if you're storing your files on Google Drive. The Everyday Woolworths mobile app, which is not sponsored, is good if you shop at Woolworths and want like I think you get a 10% discount every month shopping at Woolworths if you're part of their mobile plan. So if you specifically plan to have all of your shopping done once per month, you could basically make back all of the money you spend on a mobile plan. As for Facebook being there, if you're not using Facebook Marketplace to sell random stuff and you're tight on money, highly recommend. And the last app there, which is Multi-Timer, is the best sort of most customizable timer app I found on my phone. I'm actually using it right now for this presentation, so I know that I'm not going to go overtime on anything, but it allows you to set these cool interval timers where like for 1 minute it'll show this, for 2 seconds it'll then do this, and then for like 10 minutes and then it'll just like loop back up to the top. If you're doing like an online quiz or something, I haven't had one of those in ages, but you can just set it so it just repeats these two things to like a 30-second interval, and then you know that you have like 30 seconds to complete each question on the quiz. I found it quite useful for stuff like that. Otherwise, for websites that you may want to check out if you have not heard about yet, Monkey Type is very good. I hope most of you can touch type if you're doing any sort of coding or anything. It's surprising the amount of people that don't know how to actually type on a keyboard very fast or effectively. If you don't know, just find a random website, look at a YouTube tutorial. Monkey Type is great for just practicing your speed over time. You can set it to a different language, so you can set it to specifically test you on Python code, so you can actually practice typing different numbers and like the asterisks and all the different symbols. It took me from like 80 words per minute to 100 in just like 1 month of 15 minutes a day in the morning. So it's quite good. Amazon is good if you want to buy stuff. I'm not really too sure what to say about that. It's surprising the amount of cheap stuff you can get on there, but if you're specifically looking at computing components, I do recommend Umart. Out of all the, like, you don't want to go on Newegg or something like that. Umart is really good because they have a bunch of locations in Australia where you can just go in store, pick up, and get something within like 2 hours, even if it's like a crazy CPU or something. If you don't already know about UQADIC, you can find just regular past exams that have been uploaded with solutions. The solutions are not like the greatest all of the time. I've found several solutions that are just outright incorrect on there, but it's good if you don't know about it. And it does also act as a chat room via internet relay chat. I went on one of the chats one time and had a very interesting discussion. So if you want to look into internet relay chats, I do recommend that as just sort of a general experience. You sort of got to go into the terminal and set up this thing, but it's cool. And I guess one final random trick is if you ever want to search something on Google but only get results for a specific website, you can put site : and then the name of the website, and Google will only show results from that website. So if you're searching up like a question that AI just cannot answer, then I usually just like to put reddit.com right there to get rid of all the other like rubbish articles that just like clog up the results. And finally, I recommend you set up a GitHub profile if you have not already. It's good for portfolio purposes, obviously. And yeah, if you are not using Git, you should probably learn how to use Git as soon as possible, and GitHub in conjunction with Git. So yeah, that's the end of my talk. Any questions? Yes?
I wanted to share
Yes.
Do you have a rule of
Just repeat the question so that people on the stream.
Okay, so the question, well, I think you're still telling me the question.
So do you have a rule of thumb of like to what extent you should config? Because a lot of people with their configs are like perfectionists and they kind of change the color scheme every now and then or add new plugins. Do you have a rule of thumb of to what extent?
Okay, so the question was, a lot of the tools right here are quite configurable, and to what extent should you go and configure things? And I think my answer to that would be as little as possible, because a lot of people get, especially, there's like a sort of running joke with Vim especially, where they just spend all of their time, and Linux users are guilty as well, just configuring away all day, just making their desktop look nice or whatever, and they never get any actual work done. But I mean, configuring as a hobby is interesting, but yeah, I try to leave things at defaults if possible. But just knowing that you have the options there if you need to do something slightly different in a particular case is nice. Yes? This one?
Yes.
Yes, what about this one? Google.
There is a cheat sheet for things like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so apparently there is a cheat sheet for all of the different Google hacks you can look at. Feel free to go look at that. I probably should have put an image of that right there. But I just found out of like all the simple Google tricks you can do, this one seems to be like the most useful. Well, yeah, thank you everyone for coming and listening to me talk about a bunch of random things. I feel like 10 years ago, I mean, I don't think half of these existed 10 years ago, but 10 years ago, if someone told me about all of these things, that would have just been amazingly helpful. So yeah, I hope this helped you a little bit. Thank you very much. Okay.
Awesome. You want to say goodbye to the folks at home, all 4 of them that showed up over the course of... I don't think there's any remaining.
That's okay. We can just end the stream.
Yep.